All right, here we are on the podcast. We've got, as you know, 22Plinkster, everybody.
I know.
Or Dave.
It is good to be here, John.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I've been thinking ever since I started this, got to get you on. You know, now that this whole YouTube thing that we've all been doing for a long time is like matured to this like absurd level. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like it's made me like appreciate, you know, some of us, the early guys that got into it.
Yeah,
know?
we're kind of like, I don't want to consider myself like the OG of you know, the YouTube genre when it first came out, but I was there pretty early.
Now that's the thing.
I guess now I am.
Yeah, I remember at the time it was kind of like, oh yeah, the 22Plinkster, he's getting something going. He's a new guy, you know. But it's like now it's like he might as well be one of the first, you know. It's
so
been so long.
I guess I was the first channel to primarily do everything rimfire.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when we started, good grief, it was FPS Russia. Mm-hmm. It was you and your dad. You had TN Outdoors 9. You had Such.
Yeah, it was that Such.
You also had Nut and Fancy. Let's not forget about Nut and Fancy.
And you know, and Eric, Iraq Veteran 88. You know, I think like they started uploading videos. I think even like before we did, but they were like more of a slow burn. I didn't really know about them until a little bit later on. And then I remember there was a point where they really started to just take off.
Yes, when they started doing the redneck science stuff with the mall ninja things and all that, that's when they really, in the cut shells and things like that. And, you know, that's something that we kind of need to like touch on. It's a different demographic now. YouTube is all around.
It is, yeah.
It is. You know, I've been putting out fires today just in the comment sections of certain things. It's because you know, people just want to be entertained for 30 seconds now and move on to the next thing. They don't want to learn.
Right.
You know, they don't want to sit down to a long format video and actually learn something. Now I'm speaking to primarily the age of 35 and under when I say that. Right. Usually the 35 and over age, they want the long format videos. And you know, I enjoy doing it, but honestly, you know, I'm starting to do a little bit of both the shorts and the long format because YouTube probably about 6 months ago just said, no more soup for you. You know, I quit growing. I quit growing. I went from, you know, averaging, you know, 3,000-4,000 subscribers a month down to 700.
Yeah.
Which I haven't had those numbers since 2011.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was just like, what's going on here? You know, and all this stuff. Then I started putting out shorts. Yeah. Well, since I've been doing that, my earnings have stayed the same because you don't make squat on shorts. But the subscriber is just going through the roof. I had one video about a month and a half ago do 25 million views in a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's what they want. And I noticed something on, I don't know if you and your dad noticed this, but I'm getting worldwide reach with shorts instead of just United States and Canada, you know, because it's firearm content. Right. So by doing that, I can't even read probably 2/3 of the comments on some of those viral videos is because they're not in English.
Oh, right. Yeah. Which is a good, I've always thought, you know, it's one of the ways to tell if a video is really getting out there if the comments don't make sense.
Exactly.
Either because, maybe they're coming from a different country or they clearly don't understand what you do. You know, like whenever I see comments like on our videos, someone's like, "Who's this old man?" or whatever. It's like,
welcome to the channel.
Good, that video got out there. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
you might want to bring the mic just a little
bit closer. Is that better?
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm like fixing to bite it.
Yeah.
So, it's like you're this close to my face, and you're not a corn on the cob. So.
It's kind of like think of it like you know, if you had like a handheld mic, like a stand up, it's the same type of mic. So you kind of have to.
Oh,
be
okay.
Like,
so I've never done stand up before.
But you've probably talked with a mic.
Oh yeah.
Before. Yeah. It's the same thing.
I used to sing.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're learning things on the podcast.
Yeah, I can't sing anymore. My throat is just. You know, by the time you're 40 years old, I used to be a tenor. So I sang in a quartet in high school and in college. And I was a tenor, but I can't, it's hard for me to do that anymore because my range is not the same anymore. Right. You get older, your voice gets deeper. And yes, believe it or not, my voice is deeper now than it was, even though it's still kind of high. But that's cool. I know all about that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like. You notice with bands as they get older, sometimes they have to tune their music down some so that they can.
Yep, they usually have
yeah.
to bring it down a half octave or an octave to be able to hit that so-called high note anymore.
Right. But yeah, back to what you were saying before I rudely interrupted you. I've had a podcast where it's always like an issue where like, oh, one guest is not as loud or something because they're talking a little bit too far away, because it'll sound great in the headphones, but then you listen to it after and it's like,
well, I have severe ADD too.
Okay.
So if I'm like chasing these rabbits and you're like, you look at me and say, all right, Dave, stay on track. Stay on. So it's totally okay. I'm used to that.
Okay. All right. But yeah, what you're saying about the shorts is it really interesting. It's like being in YouTube so long as like we have, it's changed so much. And I would say though, it's never changed as much as it has really in the last like 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
You know, and it's really a new world when it comes to all that. And the thing that I don't like about it, I'm not afraid of change, but the thing I don't like about it is I feel like it's not totally consumer driven.
No,
It's kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of like being pushed by the platform itself more so than what people actually want.
You're exactly right. And, you know, I saw, you know, there was the ad apocalypse about 7 years ago, 7, 8 years ago when, you know, I quit my job after 18 years where I had job security. I'm like, hey, I want to do YouTube full time. Well, the first year was great. And then the ad apocalypse happened. And so we kind of got all through that. And now, you know, the biggest change that I have seen with earnings and viewership is the not suitable for kids icon that we have to click every single time when we upload a video. I can understand that. I honestly, I understand what YouTube is trying to do. But at the same time, I don't like it because, you know, there are firearm content creators that are unsafe with firearms. They do stuff just for views, do crazy stuff. You know, yes, it's in a controlled environment.
Right.
Okay. But if you're on the outside looking in, it doesn't look controlled. And, but you know, what you and your dad do and what I do and so many other ones, we teach the safe and responsible ownership and shooting of a firearm. And I think it's so important for the younger generation that wants to get into firearms to learn from someone like us than the other person.
Right.
And, you know, it's just like the same old addict, you know, if you buy a house and you have a young kid and there's a swimming pool out back, you can put these alarms in, you can put, you know, a fence around it. You can do all these things to protect that kid from getting in that swimming pool when you're not there. But isn't the safe, responsible thing to do is to teach them how to swim?
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly.
That would be the thing to do instead of, you know, keeping them from that. Introduce them to that, teach them about them, educate them about it, and then you have really no worries to have.
Because they're going to find it.
Yes, they're going to find it no matter what.
Right.
So, you know, you know, John, you and I grew up so similar with firearms. You know, my dad is retired military, and there was a firearm in every room of the house. Yeah. It's just the way it was. There was always one in the vehicle. There was one. At the time when I grew up, I'm going to tell you my age, but there was one under the waterbed. Okay. So, and there was one in the closet, and the rest of them were locked up in the gun cabinet. And I knew where those guns were as a kid, you know. But one, I respected my dad. One, I feared my dad, and he also taught me at a young age and showed me what these firearms can do.
Right.
And you know, I respected that, and I knew not to touch them. You know,
which is amazing that. Because I had the same experience, you know. Obviously, my dad was very serious about gun safety and you know, don't touch it unless you're I'm with you when I was a kid, all that kind of stuff. And I think back to those times, and there's no way that at 5 years old or whatever, 8 years old, I could have comprehended what those consequences really were of what a gun could do. But yet, I still somehow understood, like, I might do some things I'm not supposed to do or get in trouble, but like this was a line that I just don't cross.
Exactly.
And I don't know how I understood that, but I just did. A lot of kids do.
I understood it because you don't hunt. Your dad don't hunt. Okay. I hunted. So there was, for me, there was no such thing as recreation shooting to my dad. There wasn't. Like, honestly, my dad was so serious about wasting ammo.
Interesting.
Like it was, you're allowed to sight in the gun. Then after that, you were allowed to hunt. I used to have a 22 Browning lever action 22 that Dad had, and you know, This is 10 years old. I'm 10 years old going out in the woods by myself with a 22 rifle. I knew not to shoot up in the air. I knew not to shoot with anything behind me. But Dad would give me 10 rounds. And it was a lever action, so it was a little bit more safe than a semi-automatic.
Right,
you know,
right.
I don't think. Well, safe is probably not the right word, but
I know what you mean.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. The comments won't know what you mean. But
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, I would go out with 10 rounds. He would give me 10 rounds of 22, and if I come back with only 5 squirrels and with no ammo, I missed 5 times. That was 5 days I couldn't hunt.
Oh, wow.
Because I missed 5 times. Dad did not. There was no excuse for missing. No excuse. You wait. You take your time. You make sure the shot counts. And I saw what that ammo did to animals, whether it be deer, rabbits, squirrels, anything that I hunted. And you know, I learned real quick life and death from firearms.
Right.
And so. Yeah, you know, you learned on watermelons and pumpkins and things like that.
Water jugs. Yeah.
Water jugs, things of that nature.
It's so funny, too, as you're telling that story. I'm thinking about, like, my own experience. It reminded me of, like, when, you know, my dad had a full auto Uzi.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when I was growing up. And he unfortunately sold it, you know, but he, way before we started making videos. But I remember what he would let me do when I was a kid is it was one of the guns I actually learned to shoot on because it's so short, you know, and it's heavy, so the recoil was easy to control. And then there'd be like 4 or 5 rounds left in the magazine, and then he'd let me go full auto on that.
And we've all seen those full auto videos of people that are not very smart handing small kids full auto weapons with 20, 30 rounds. That's a recipe for disaster.
It is.
And, you know, it goes back to just being smart. And the more you deal with guns, the more you handle guns, the more you shoot guns, is the smarter you become with them. And you know,
teaches you about life on a certain level.
Exactly. And anybody can make a mistake. Okay, I get it. But what you do, the more you handle guns, the more you shoot guns, you kind of lower that percentile down even more. Because honestly, some of the scaredest I've ever been is around people who were quote unquote in the military or police officer. First thing they do is pull a gun out and it's pointing right at you.
Right.
It's just like, ugh. Like I watched Mr. and Miss Smith today. It's a new series on, you know, it's a new series on Amazon.
I've heard of the movie.
Yeah, the movie. So they're doing a series. And like within the first 20 minutes, it shows this guy getting this gun out of the safe and he's pointing it right at a woman talking about, yeah, this is going to be, and I'm just like, you know, I believe there should be some kind of firearm after the Alec Baldwin thing. I really think there should be some kind of firearm safety guy on set at all time. Like, hey, you don't need to have this pointed. I know this is a movie.
Right.
It's not loaded. It's not even a real gun, but still teach your kids through movies and other stuff. Just don't, you know, do crazy stuff like that.
Exactly. That's an interesting thing to bring up because I feel like we might disagree on this.
Oh,
the
really?
Alec Baldwin thing. Yeah, because I think I might have a different kind of take on it from what I've, like, a lot of people I've seen in the gun industry. Here, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but my view of what I've seen everyone say about the Alec Baldwin thing is that if Alec Baldwin is known to be anti-gun, right? I think that most gun people that I've seen, they blame him for what happened. I think if he wasn't anti-gun, if he was like, what's that country singer that acts in westerns all the time?
Country music.
He's like a real tall guy, lives in Nashville. I can't. Trace Atkins, maybe, or
Tracy Lawrence. I know who you're talking about. He was in.
Tall guy.
Yeah, was it the same guy that was in the movie Henry?
I think he was in that, maybe.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But anyways, if it was him in that same situation, I think it would be a different narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
My belief is that people are wanting to say it's his fault because he's an anti-gun. You know, if I'm looking at it objectively, he's an actor in a movie. They handed him a gun. It's not really his responsibility to know anything about it. You know what I mean? If it's a blank, it's a blank. That's how I feel about it.
I get that.
To me, it's on whoever was supposed to be handling the guns and whoever hired them. Like, that's who's at fault.
But again, it goes back to the whole Bruce Lee thing. How in the world does that happen?
Right. But I don't think it's Baldwin's fault. Unless he knew. Unless it was somehow his job to be in charge of those bullets, because you know, it's my understanding that it was live ammo, right? Because it was different. Yeah, so that's what ended up coming out because there was different stories on what exactly it was. So they have, I know in Hollywood they have different types of bullets. They have blanks, and then they have bullets that look like real bullets, but they have rice in them. so you can shake them and know that it's not live or whatever. So it's like, how is he supposed to know? For what? I guess he should. Is he supposed to pull him out and shake him and make sure before he does it? I don't know.
I get 100% what you're saying, and I really never thought about it like that. I've always looked at it from the perspective of a gun owner.
Right.
That, hey, if you hand me a gun, the first thing, if you pull out your EDC right now and you hand me that firearm, the first thing I'm going to do, one, I'm going to point in the safe direction. Two, I'm going to drop the magazine. Three, I'm going to unload it. Right. Or make sure it is loaded where I can keep it pointed in the safe direction. That's just us, because that is instilled in our minds. But
a movie,
yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. I can kind of see both sides now.
Like do you know Shane Gillis? Okay, he's a hilarious comedian, but he has this sketch. It's one of the funniest sketches maybe on the internet where he's playing this. He's like supposed to be a cop in the sketch, and there's like a dinner party happening in his house, but he was like in bed, but he's sleepwalking, right? So he comes downstairs like in a robe, and he has his gun, and he's just like kind of pointing it around, and he like puts it like in his mouth at one point, Yeah. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa! It's hilarious, right? But it's like it's art. Yeah. Right? Like, obviously, like, handling a gun that way, like, there's a part of me that wants to cringe, but it's like, it's a simulation of something else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, like, when I was seeing all these people talking about, like, oh, that's why you teach gun safety, it's like, does that really apply to this specific situation?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's a spoof off of whatever, but I it's.
But
it's
I get the tendency,
line.
though, because it's like, oh, Alec Baldwin, look at this guy,
Yeah, it's that whole situation, now it's over with and done and all that stuff, but, again, coming from the outside looking in from a responsible gun owner, and yes, I'm not responsible for a lot of things, or I'm irresponsible for a lot of things. But guns is never anything that I've, we've all had, incidences on the range. We've all had that. If you shoot guns enough times, you're going to, I can't tell you, I'm probably up to 7 slam fires at this point with handguns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm up to every one of them different guns, but people just, there's one thing that I have never done and I do not like doing, even with my carry gun. When I've been out shooting and it's time to change out ammo, I will not put a round in the chamber in the house.
Oh, yeah.
I will take it outside, point it to the ground, let the slide go, boom. Just because I've had 7 slam fires.
Oh, right.
So, you never know.
Yeah, it's true. I get that. I mean, I definitely, I do that. Like, it always makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but it's like, I want to make sure I got around the chamber. I'm in this hotel, this maybe a dangerous place or whatever. I want to make sure I'm, but I get that. Something that I crack myself up sometimes when I have a gun that's like taken apart, and like, I don't know, maybe like, let's say it's like an AK and like the bolt and everything's out of it, whatever. And I'm like moving it around. I still like, you know what I mean? Or I mean, one time I think I even had just a barrel and I was like not pointing it at someone. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's still, I'm more or less a precision shooter. That's what I do for a living. I don't shoot a lot of I do shoot a lot of volume, but I'm a precision shooter. That's how I was taught. And so sometimes when you do precision shooting and you have to clean guns, I still have to look down the muzzle with the bolt open or whatever to make sure I've gotten everything out of like my match rifles and stuff. And it's still cringy. Like I am almost shaking just to look down that barrel, even though I know the action's open, it's unloaded. I just got through cleaning it. But I know exactly.
Sometimes you have to, but
it's instilled. It is burned in our skull and our brain, for muzzle awareness. But that's a good thing. Yeah,
exactly. And imagine though, and that's another thing that's so frustrating about how like gun rights being such a fight that it's like I always want to be like even with like the mass shootings and stuff. I almost always want to be like, all right, we can have this fight, but for now, let's do something that surely no one can disagree with, like gun safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? What's the harm in that?
Yeah.
What's the harm in that? They don't even have to be real guns. Just teach kids about gun safety. But they'll never they'll always try to stop that because the anti-gun side's fear is that normalizes it,
Yeah, and that's a shame. And what you get from that is accidents that could have been avoided just by education.
Right.
And to them, that's great, when there's accidents, because that's another way to push their agenda.
Right.
But for us, we're crying inside, not one because we're adamant or passionate about the Second Amendment, but we value human life.
Right.
We don't want to see anybody die for no apparent reason, whether it be guns or vehicles or anything like that. But yeah, it's sad that they use stuff like that and have been for years. Just to push their agenda.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because every kid should grow up the way that we did, or at least having that same. Sorry, made a mess of that.
Oh, well. Man down.
I had like 4 beers in the 6-pack, and they just all just went out. It's like a hand trying to grab something.
It's like the claw in the video game machines.
Exactly. Yeah,
so that's what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we go. A lot of people that are listening to your podcast that have been following you and your dad for many years don't understand how far we go back.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So
I wasn't sure how much you wanted to talk about that, but I would love to talk about that.
Yeah. I was thinking on the way up here, I'm like, the first time I met you, you were 16.
Oh, well, I was thinking it was even younger than that, but okay.
It may have been. I remember you were getting ready for a basketball game.
Okay.
And I was over at your house. Me and your dad, believe it or not, we're talking about guns.
Yeah.
And so how old are you now? 31, 32?
35.
You're 35?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 10 years older than you. I just turned 45 last week. Okay. And so yeah, that would be, yeah, you're 35 now. Holy cow, I'm old. Yeah. So, but yeah, a lot of people don't know how I met your dad. I was 16 years old when I met your dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was either 15 or 16. So your dad was on the reserve deputy, sheriff's department. My dad was a reserve deputy at the same time.
Okay.
So when your dad and my dad had qualifications, every year, I would go with dad, and I'd always see your dad there. And my dad introduced me to your dad when I was like 15, 16 years old. It wasn't until probably, I don't know, till I was probably about 29, or 30 that I really got to know your dad, over the house and doing some shooting. And then I remember, I guess it was about 2010 when y'all started about 2009, correct?
Yeah, I'd like to say kind of like the sort of the winter of 2008.
Okay.
That was when I was still in college, and it was like when we were talking on the phone, and I was like, hey, you should put these videos on YouTube kind of thing. But it wasn't until like the summer of 2009 that like I was living at home and we were really like going big guns with it.
Gotcha. And I made my first video December of 2011.
Okay.
So, and I remember running into your dad it was like 2010 down at the post office. And your dad walks in. He's like, hey, Dave, how's it going? And I was like, good. How are you? And so we get to talking a little bit. I'm like, so are you still teaching? He's like, yeah, I'm still teaching. He said, but get this. Guess what I'm doing now? I'm like, what? He's like, have you ever heard of YouTube? and I was like, yeah. I said, I've heard of it. And, this is the very, very beginning of smartphones.
Right.
Okay. So this is usually, when YouTube first came out, you went to your computer and you may or may not had high-speed internet.
Yep.
And so to watch a video in 144p was like a cool thing. Like, this complete stranger, hacked into the internet and put this video up here of him like singing and dancing.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'm doing these videos now on YouTube. And I'm like, really? He said, yeah, I've got like 5,000 subscribers. And I'm like, really? You? I remember saying, I'm like, really? People are watching you?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And all I'm doing is just like shooting steel and talking a little bit about them. And I'm like, really? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, cool. And I said, what's your channel? Like, how can I find you? He said, it's Hickok 45. And I'm like, what kind of name is that? Why did you pick Hickok? He was like, well, that was my cowboy name and all this other stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, well, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. And, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, why didn't you use your real name? I'm like, it didn't make sense to me. Why are you using a character's name?
Yeah.
And so, fast forward about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a dare from Dustin Ellerman. I won't tell the whole story, but Dustin Ellerman did a he was on the Top Shot.
Yeah.
He hit a golf ball at 100 yards with the Vakortzen rifle. I'd never even heard of Vakortzen at the time. And so, my friend said I couldn't do it, who lived in Florida. And I'm like, I can do that shot. And I said, I won't do it with a rifle. I'll do it with a pistol. And he was like, oh, you can't do that. So that day I came home from work, stuck up a golf ball at 100 yards, backed up with the Ruger Mark II at 100 yards. Second shot, the golf ball went flying, and I was recording with the original droid. The very first droid, shot 720.
Okay.
So I was filming with an original droid, and I went to show the golf ball that I hit, and I noticed I didn't hit record. Rookie. This first video I've ever made,
Yeah.
And so I hit record, got another golf ball, third shot, golf ball went flying. That's all I wanted YouTube for.
Right.
That's it. Like I didn't even really, I watched like one or two of your dad's videos, but I was on YouTube watching like Fail Army and stuff like Funny Kitten videos and stuff like that.
Even we didn't understand that it could be like a continuous channel.
Exactly.
When we started.
Most people would just throw up something, a play from high school or middle school or something like that.
Right.
And so a couple of weeks went by, and some guy commented on my video, and he said, "Hey, nice shot." And I'm like, back then we got emails every time someone commented. So it wasn't you went to an app and you surfed through the no, you got an honest email when someone subscribed to you, when someone commented on a video. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Nice shot. Like I couldn't and then I went back and I had 74 views on that video. And I'm like, 74 people wasted their time and watched the most boring video on the internet. And so a couple people found my channel and, they started like, can you do this? Can you do that? And, I grew up doing stuff like that as a kid.
Yeah.
When I bought my own ammo, Dad wouldn't buy me that ammo, but when I would save up and spend $10.25 for 525 rounds of bulk ammo. And so I just started doing that kind of stuff. And then about a year later, I went over to your dad's house, and I don't even know if you were there at that time. And we're outside just shooting, having a good time. I think I went there on a service call. I worked on his alarm system, and then we started shooting afterwards. I used to make up so many service call work orders just to go to your dad's house and shoot. I'm like, he's got a low battery on this. I better go check it out. So, honestly, that happened like 10 times in a year and a half. And so
I do remember that. Like, man, the ADT guy's always over here.
Is he using my room since I'm off of college? What's going on?
Just like broken all the time. Maybe look at a different service.
And so, but honestly, 90% of those work orders, they were just fabricated. They weren't even real work orders. I just made up something to go shoot with your dad. And I'd always carry some hearing protection and eye protection in my work van with me at all times. And so we was getting out there and we were just shooting, and we got done shooting. Well, I picked up a 9mm casing and I kind of flipped it up in the air and went boom, shot it with my 22. And your dad was like, "Can you do that again?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I picked up a no, boom, missed. I picked up a no, boom, shot it. And he was like, "You need to put that stuff on YouTube." And I'm like, I've got a YouTube channel. Nobody watches it. So he was like, "Oh, really? What's your YouTube channel name?" And so I told him my YouTube channel name, and I remember it just like it was yesterday. I'm laying in bed at that time. My youngest was probably about 3 years old, and I'm laying in bed with her, and I'm trying to get her to sleep, and all of a sudden I get a notification from my phone, an email saying, "Hickok45, subscribe to your channel." I'm like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So I put it down. I put the phone down, and then my phone started blowing up. I'm talking bling, 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 bling. And I think I gained 400 subscribers that night.
Oh, wow.
And, it took me a year to get 75. And I think out of the 75, 35 are the people I knew, and I told them to subscribe to me,
And that was back, I don't even know if YouTube even works that way anymore.
No, they don't.
To where it would even matter.
No, it does not. It doesn't matter if you like or comment or subscribe to a channel. Nobody sees that anymore.
But back then, I think it was because people went to the home channel more, and they would see oh, this is who they subscribe to.
Yep.
I think because the discovery aspect of YouTube was kind of on you.
Yep.
And I think that was a lot of it. Whereas now it's like they're trying to. Look at this! Look at this! Look at this!
Yes, it's a fast-paced algorithm that they have now, and and then your dad liked some videos of mine for the next year, and it kind of built me up, to where I am now. And without honestly, without you and your dad's help, I doubt very seriously I would continue to do it because it was a grind just to get those 75 subscribers in a year.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people come up to me now and, send me messages and stuff and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing a gun channel on YouTube. Like, what kind of advice you can give me? And I'm like, all right, I'll tell you my advice. Do what you love to do.
Yep.
And it's either going to sink or swim.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. I said, but always be yourself, because if you're always yourself, you never have to worry about turning on a character or being somebody or doing something bigger and better. Just be yourself and do what you want to do. And people are going to find you, and people are going to like it or they're not going to like it. Now, if you're doing it, putting up a video every week for like 6 years and you have like 500 subscribers, it's probably time to do a different hobby.
Right.
Well, if you're thinking about doing it full time, you can always do it for a hobby. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But not for, I've been doing YouTube now full time 8 years.
Yeah.
And, it still scares me to death every single day that I wake up. I'm like, is some person in a cubicle, a 20-year-old in California, going to push a button and change my life?
Right.
That's what I think about.
And it happens.
Yeah, it's happened to you guys.
A bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I have never been, there was a time that I was getting flagged, every other day and fighting it. And I took every video down for about a week because it was during the bump stock thing. And so I had probably 8 or 10 videos on a bump stock, over a period of 3 years where they're finding them and flagging my channel. Well, 3 strikes, you're out. And so I'm like, if they're not public, you can't do it. So, there was a time I took every video down, and it was the same time, the first time y'all got deleted. It was during that time.
Okay. Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yes.
I remember, I'll never forget that day. Because at this point, I was solely making a living off of YouTube and hadn't been for that long, and making just enough money to be able to sustain that, And I remember, Dad wakes up at like 3 in the morning. I mean, it's crazy.
I think you're exaggerating. I think it's 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we're like ships passing in the night,
Yep.
I remember getting a text from him stupid early, and I woke up, and it was like, it was so dramatic too. It was something like, well, our worst fears have happened. The channel's gone. Something like that, right?
Yep.
And I looked at it and I was like, I'm too tired to even think about this. And I put my phone back down, and I slept for another like few hours. And then I woke up again, and I was like, oh yeah, wasn't I feeling bad about something? Did
I dream that? Was that a nightmare?
Yeah. You ever do that where it's like,
oh yeah,
I feel bad about something. What was that? And then you're like, oh yeah, shit, that's right. and then I called him, and then
Yeah, I remember he called me at about 7:30, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, they took it down. I'm like, took a video down? What? Like, no, the channel's gone. And I'm like, no. And I was doing something else, preoccupied. And I remember when he's telling me this, I'm looking at text messages and messages from people, other YouTubers like, hey, Hickok's gone. I'm like, and then I looked, I'm like, you can't even search it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you going to do? And he was like, well, I'm going to, there's not a 1-800 YouTube number that you can call, to say, hey, this is a mistake. But luckily you guys got back on shortly after.
Yeah. Basically, like if that happened now, I think we might, well, I don't know. But then we were a large enough slice of the pie of all the gun channels that people complained, and YouTube was also small enough at that time where they were like blowing up YouTube's Facebook page and different things like that, which got their attention. The story got picked up by Fox.
Oh, I didn't know
not
that.
Not on the actual broadcasted news, but like on one of their websites.
Oh, okay.
It was like a little story or whatever. So it was like starting to there was like some heat was starting to happen from it, and someone reached out to us, and that was when we kind of like worked it all out.
And I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's the same way now as it was back then. But if they do that, they take all your stuff. It's on a server for 36 hours. Is it like 36 or 72 hours?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then after that, it's gone forever. So they have like 36 to 72 hours to restore it. If it don't, it's deleted forever.
Jeez.
So
yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of I panicked when all that stuff was going on with me too. About the same time you guys, I just took down the whole channel.
Yeah,
I just took it down. I'm like, well, you can't flag it if it's not public.
Right.
So how many bad unlisted things do people have on YouTube that never release it? They're just videos.
Telling, yeah.
So that was kind of my theory, and it worked until all that stuff got blown over.
Right. What's really frustrating about it is I would hope that when things like that happen now, maybe it's a little different. But I mean, that was still like kind of new ground, right, at that time, because that was what 2012 or 11, something like that.
No, it was after that. It was
13, maybe.
Yeah, it was probably 13.
Okay. You know, there's a lot of people who are full-time YouTubers. There's a lot. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of
A lot
us.
more now than it was then.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's like, okay, your whole livelihood is based on this thing. It's like, it's like if you have a regular 9-to-5 job and you show up and it's just like the building is gone. And then you don't have. It's not like a regular job where, oh well, I can take those skills to another place. It's like, no, this was my.
This is it.
I guess a better comparison would be like you have like a company, and you show up to your office and it's just gone, foreclosed or something. It's
the one thing, and this is kind of a personal thing. I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I don't like it when someone comes up to me, and you probably have never even thought about this, but once, like, whether it be a viewer, a family member, or a friend, or whatever, I would come up to me and say, you know what, you're lucky. You've got the luckiest job in the whole entire world. And I'm like, I don't see it as luck. I said, yes, I'm blessed that I have this and I have this platform, but you've got to remember, I put videos out every single week, 2 videos a week for 3 years before I made my first dime.
Yeah.
So, and I would simply tell them, I'm like, where do you work? And they would tell me where they work. I'm like, would you go to the same place every day and work, 2 times a week, volunteer your time two times a week, and then have to put up with emails during the night, answering questions for 3 years, just a possibility that you would be employed and start making money.
Right.
And they were like, well, I never thought of it like that. And I'm like, I started as a hobby, but I saw the potential in it. And so I stayed at it. And I remember my first check from YouTube was $107.
Yeah.
I still have it.
Because it used to be they wouldn't pay unless it got to 100.
Exactly. So finally, it took me like 3 months once I got a YouTube partner. It took me 3 months to get $107.
Yeah.
And then the next week, the next month, it was like $118. And it was $200. Then it started going up. And then it was doing great. I'm talking the channel was doing wonderful until the ad apocalypse.
Yeah.
And then after the ad apocalypse, but 2020, even as bad as the ads were and everything else, 2020 was a stellar year to be a YouTuber. So,
boy, was it.
It was COVID. So everybody stayed home and it was screen time.
And the election, all the presidential ads.
Yes. And between that and plus, a lot of companies that, couldn't get out and market their stuff, and they would just send you stuff. And it was good stuff, stuff that they've been working on for years. Well, they can't go to SHOT Show. They can't go to NRA. So what they do, they put it, in people's hands. And so you're putting out, I was putting out 3 videos a week. And if anybody knows my channel, I'm usually once to 7 to 10 days. That's about all I can do because I'm juggling too much other stuff that's going on. So, it was 2020 was a great year.
Yeah.
No, well, a great year for content creators, not a great year for America or anybody else.
It was the beginning of the downfall of our civilization, but
it was.
I made a little extra money, so
everything's good.
Yeah.
But from a content creator standpoint, 2020 was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still they're fewer and far between, but I still like get comments where people will like hate on you for making a YouTube video, and they look at your job like, oh, it's just like this easy gravy train type of thing, But like you said, it's like, yeah, where were you the years that I was making nothing?
Exactly.
Because I mean, I remember when we were first getting started, and this was when like there was like very little competition, like no one was doing it.
Yep.
And it's still there was like 2 years or almost 3 years of just nothing. I mean, one thing that was a little different about our come up is that we didn't really know what was there.
Yeah.
So that's different. But now if you're getting into it, you kind of like...
Yeah, there wasn't a graph when we started saying, hey, you can expect this potential and this growth.
Right.
And there was nothing, we were... But, talking about the earnings and stuff, and, the one thing that has always upset me with the firearms industry is, I'll go ahead and say it, sponsors.
Yeah.
It irks me to no end because honestly, my CPM for YouTube now is the lowest it's ever been. And for anybody watching or listening to this podcast, basically what a CPM is is how much you get paid per 1,000 views or 10,000 views. Okay. It's a percentage. Okay. And back when we started doing it, that CPM was, 13, 12,
Right.
13, 14%.
Because they were trying to motivate people to make content.
And now my average CPM is like 1.5.
Yeah.
So yeah, get millions and millions of views a month, but at the same time, they're not making any money. I did a, we were talking before the podcast, that YouTube short, it's up to I made it a month ago, 27 million.
Yeah.
Guess how much that has made me monetized as a YouTube short? 27 million views.
Zero?
$800.
Oh, $800.
So
okay.
after taxes, you see 400.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't even pay my cameraman
Yeah.
for the month. Not even close. So people are like, oh, you made 20, it's 25 million views. I'm like, no. Now, if you have 25 million views on a long format video, that's really good. But YouTube's not pushing that stuff anymore.
Right.
But to get back to what I was talking about, again, it's chasing rabbits with my ADD. Let's get that clear. So I'll kind of get off subject a little bit. But
hey, all creative people have ADD.
Well, that's what I've heard.
Without it, you're not going to come
It can't be
up with
proven
stuff.
on my side. But but they had, if it wasn't for my sponsors, I couldn't do what I do.
Yeah.
I would have to quit YouTube, because then it would just be a hobby again instead of. But sponsors allow me to do what I can do, and so the funny thing is, no one, not that I'm saying or comparing myself to him, but no one bashed Michael Jordan for signing with Nike or Gatorade,
right?
Or Dale Earnhardt signing, Junior signing with Budweiser, like, oh, good, whatever. But when somebody from the Second Amendment does it, they're sellouts.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, no, I am not going to be with a company or with a product that I don't 100% believe in. And a lot of the stuff that I have, the companies I've been with, I've been using that stuff for 20 years, 25 years.
Right.
It's not like I just, I found you. Yes. Sponsor me. No, it's not that, So, and your dad's situation, and you get emails every day from people wanting to send you product and pay you to do it. That's not, it's not all about the money. It's a reputation.
Absolutely. I had someone send me, I'm not going to say who it was or what it was, but someone sent me, I got a message from one of my old landlords from like 4 places ago that I lived that I hadn't heard from in a long time. And it was like,
time ago.
hey, someone sent you this stuff. It was like, how do I get it to you? And I was like, you know what? I don't like that they tracked me down on that level. You just take it. Whatever.
Exactly. There's no telling what's in it. So, have you checked the obituaries or anything to make sure he's okay?
Yeah. I never heard back from him, so I don't know.
I don't know. So yeah, it's what still freaks me out. I'm very private about where I live, my name, because for years I did security and the clearances that I had with that security company. And, I'd work in, vaults, I'd work in banks and, had all this stuff. So I never used my real name to do anything because, I've got a family to think about.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's so strange. And then what still freaks me out is stuff just shows up. Stuff just shows up at my house. Stuff just shows up at my FFL. And I'm like, I didn't know this was coming. I didn't order this. They're like, well, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. I may make a video on it. I may not. I don't know. I don't even know what this is,
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary that my real name and address is floating around there. A lot of places that people can randomly just send me stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell this story. Because they're kind of like considered a joke now anyways. You remember the hidden, what was that holster? Is that
Hidden holster?
Is it hidden hybrid? Is that what it's called? The holster where it goes under your pants?
And you flip it up and it comes out.
Yeah. Okay. So that guy, he sent me one of those. And I was going to make a video on it, like on my John Hickok channel. And then I messed around with it, and I just hated it so much that I just kind of was like, I was planning on doing the video, but it was going to be negative because I didn't like it, and I just kind of couldn't get excited about doing it. And then the guy got really upset, like, "Hey, where's the video?" And it's like, dude, you don't want to see the video.
And see, that's all right. If you're listening to this podcast or watching this, you're getting a lot of insider stuff. Okay, we get products sent to us every week. Okay, we didn't order them; they didn't show up. Sometimes, we order them. We already have like an email exchange of like, hey, we said, yeah. So people get on to me for only showing good stuff. Okay, now I will show if a gun malfunctions or if something didn't perform. I'm going to show that in the video, of course. Right. But there's sometimes that some things are just junk. And they're like, hey, we're going to pay you for this video, like, or whatever, like, or you sponsor. I'm like, no, I'm doing you a favor by not posting this.
Right.
And I'm like, let bygones be bygones. Let's just like, here's your product back. Here's everything. And I'm like, let someone else bash that product.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that the outside people are going to make their own products and opinions about it. I don't want to be that guy. There's only been one product that I have ever kind of like, I get slammed a little bit on my channel, and it was, and if you watch my channel, you already know what it is. It's the Glock 44.
Oh yeah.
Okay, it's the 22 version of the Glock when they came out. Not necessarily that it was a bad product. Okay, it wasn't a bad product I showed, but I also showed that it wouldn't shoot with bulk ammo, 36 grain bulk ammo. I'm like, pull the trigger, Jam, pull the trigger. You know, I'm like,
and you're not the only one.
Yeah, exactly.
The word on that gun is that it's
I was
not,
the first one,
right?
And so that's why it was so bad. Yeah. And I bought that gun. Glock didn't send me that gun. Yeah. That was not a loaner. I went out and bought it. And the biggest problem I had with it was the gun was like $500, okay, because it was a Glock. And on top of that, if you wanted a threaded barrel, it was an extra $200. Yeah, so you're looking crazy. At $700 for a 10 round,
right?
22 Glock. No, like there were so many other better options on, and that's what I explained. And you know, to this day, that video's got millions of views, and I'm considered the Glock hater. I'm like, that wasn't my intentions. I'm just reviewing the product as how I got it. So.
Right. Yeah. Like I remember when we did our first High Point video.
Yeah.
People got mad at Dad. You know, to me, it was, I honestly, I remember when we shot the video, I kind of thought like maybe you should have been a little more harder on it. You know, people might be upset because you weren't hard enough on it, but it was the other way. People were mad. They were mad.
Yeah, because it ran. Yeah. And it's the worst trigger. Like there are places that will cut you when you shoot it sometimes.
Yeah. But I mean, they were mad that he was like talking trash about it. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. People were like, I've got 7 of them and they're great or whatever. It's like, well, some people can't afford a better gun or whatever. But it's like, it's objectively not a great gun.
Yeah. And all right, I don't know if you can answer me this question honestly or not, but so your dad owns a High Point.
I think he. That one. I know. Yeah.
Does he still have it?
Oh yeah. It's still around somewhere. I haven't seen it in a while.
Buried somewhere on the compound?
No, it's around. Yeah, I saw it not too long ago. He got me a High Point as a prank.
I got him a High Point as a prank.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, so he got the idea from you. He saw it from you. Yeah, I've got the 45. The JHP 45 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh yeah. You got the big boy.
Yeah, and I'll sometimes bring it out and show it to people just because it's hilarious.
Yeah. So to give a little bit of context for the story. The first time I went on Hickok 45's channel, that was like 2011, 2012. I was a young channel, all right. Had a couple thousand subscribers, but back then there were only 30, 40 gun channels on YouTube. It wasn't a huge, it's not thousands and thousands like there are now.
It blows my mind how many there are now.
Yeah. You know, I look, something will come up recommended on me and I'll look at a video and it's a gun channel and they got 400,000, 500, a million subscribers. I'm like, never heard of it. Not to say that it's anything bad. It's just, I stayed within my tight knit.
So many,
Yeah. And so Hickok invited us to the compound to make a video and it was myself, it was, TN Outdoors 9. It was Tim with the Military Arms channel, and it was Fate of Destiny.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I don't know if you seen my post about this, but we just started this channel called Hickok 45 Clips, where I'm going through all of our old videos and just making little segments and just throwing them up there or whatever. Yeah. And I put one up from that video.
Did you?
Ago. Yeah. I'll just send you the link.
Okay, I would love to see it.
Yeah.
But so Hickok invited us out, and of course he had the much larger channel. I think at that time he was probably at about 200,000 subscribers.
Maybe something like that.
And so to tell him thank you, I bought a Glock, a 9mm, not a Glock. That would have been real bad. No, I'm just joking. I own 5 or 6 Glocks. I bought him a High Point, and I took it one step further, and I took it to a place that engraved things on metal, and I engraved our channel name on that High Point, and I gave it to him in an H&K box. So I had an H&K box. I'm like, hey, we all went in together to buy you something for having us on the channel. We just want to say thank you. You bought the pizza and all this other stuff. Yeah. And so he was like, oh, an H&K. And like, he was really excited. He was really happy. And then he opens it up and he's like, this isn't an H&K. He's, it's a High Point. Then he goes, crap, now I can't get rid of it. It's sentimental. so I was like, yes. And I've got some pictures of him floating around when he got it. He's like snuggling up with it this right here. And I've got to find those pictures somewhere. But yeah, that was a good time. That was the innocent days of YouTube.
I miss those days.
Oh, goodness, yeah. You could say what you want to say. You could do what you wanted to do. And it was a free platform. Yeah. And there was an agenda that was being pushed from the outside looking in. But I'm a capitalist. So YouTube, it's their platform.
Right.
It's their rules. And people are like, why don't you go over to Rumble or why don't you go over this? I'm like, that's not the beast.
Right.
That is not the beast is YouTube, because 1 minute you can look how to, replace the brakes on your 2017 Tundra. And the next second, you can look how to garden your tomatoes. Right. And the next segment, you can be watching a firearm video.
Exactly.
So you can't do that with other platforms as well as YouTube. So that's why I continue to stay on YouTube. For everyone that always wants the gun YouTube channels to bail ship and go somewhere else, it will never happen.
Unless the only way it will happen is if there's another platform that has just as much ass behind it as YouTube does. Mm-hmm. Like, it'd have to be someone like Elon Musk or something to start it, and the word gets out that like they're not messing with you over there.
Yep,
you can do whatever you want, and there could be like a migration.
There could be a migration, but I think it would have to come to the point that YouTube would just cut us off completely.
Yeah.
Either demonetize us 100% where we can't make a penny. Say, yeah, you can continue to put content up here, but you're not going to make anything.
And not just us, like even like if gaming channels or different.
Exactly.
It'd have to be like a big section of it. Yeah.
Gaming. What do you think the biggest demographic of YouTube is? Like the biggest knit family? Would you think it would be gaming?
Oh, the biggest category?
Category, yes.
I feel like it's not what I would expect. Do you know?
No. I don't.
Oh, you don't?
I was asking you.
I thought you knew, and you were just like, "What do you think it is?" And it's going to be something I don't expect.
It's basket weaving.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Now I know we're on even footing. Let me think.
I would think it'd be gaming or automotive.
Yeah.
Or maybe skincare.
Yeah, I would have thought probably gaming before automotive, especially.
Because there are tons of car guys and car channels on YouTube. Like, I'm not a car person. I remember that car. What did you have? That black car that was like stupid
I still miss
fast.
That thing. It was a '69 Buick Skylark.
Skylark, that's what it was.
It was kind of a piece of shit. But I loved it.
It was like every other week. I got it running. It's broke. I got it running. It was broke.
Totally. Yep.
I've got a guy looking at it now, and now he knows what's wrong with it. A week later, well, it was fixed. Now it's broke. Yeah. So, it was constant like that. But that car would fly. That car was so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm not a car guy, but I find myself watching car channels like every once in a while. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Because they put out good content.
Jay Leno's Garage, you watch that?
No, I haven't.
That's a great show.
Okay.
You got to check that out. Jay Leno's Garage is so cool because it's like Jay Leno, he's still like funny sometimes in it because he's Jay Leno, but it's not like, oh, this comedian is pretending to be like, I mean, he is.
Jay Leno's always been a car guy.
Oh, he is legit.
Yeah.
And he really knows what he's talking about. So it's like the main focus of it is like the cars, and he just has so much knowledge. It's really fascinating. And then he'll like catch you off guard with like something really funny,
So here's the question. We're kind of putting you on the spot. What's your dream car?
My dream car? Man, it's tough because honestly, I mean, I am very partial to. I do have a dream of one day getting a '69 Skylark again, but one that's actually like in good shape, But I'll tell you, one of my other favorites though is the 1970 Cadillac.
Ooh.
Like the full size.
Oh yeah. That's like you're floating on air with the shocks. Like it's so big.
They just like that year to me has the coolest like front end and then the tail lights and everything. But then also I love like the 55 Cadillac is really cool. The 56.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. If I can only have one old car because my first one was that 69, I might do that. I still have two old cars. I need to. They're a mess.
Really,
a mess. I've got All right, so I've got two. I've got a '67 Buick Wildcat 4-door,
Okay.
and it's in the best. It's like kind of a survivor, but it's got some. It was a Minnesota car.
So it's got rust all over it.
Yeah, and some of it's been fixed, but it needs more. And I just kind of got them on ice, where it's like I don't have time, the time, money, or energy to deal with it right now. There's in my garage, but it's in pretty good shape. It's like the interior is really nice. The dash is all original. It's all there. It's got the damn. It's been so long since I messed with it. It's got a big block motor in it. It's like a 430. Yeah, it's got a 430 in it. But then my other car, I thought about just selling that one, because I don't really have the time for two. I thought about selling that one, but my other one is a 1954 Chrysler New Yorker.
Ooh.
And it's cool. I actually enjoy driving it more.
Okay.
It's just got that big sloped hood, feels like you're driving an old Army truck.
Gotcha.
Giant steering wheel, it has a little bit of a tighter suspension.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, that one, the Wildcat's kind of like the Cadillac, where it just floats around.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. And the hood is
I've been in old cars
long.
like that. My parents had an old Oldsmobile. I think it was an 80. I want to say it was like an 82 4-door Oldsmobile.
Okay.
And dude, that thing was, it didn't have power steering. And I remember when I was like 4 or 5 asking my mom, why are you constantly correcting the steering wheel? Because it had like 6 inches of slop in it and there's no power steering. And I'm like, is driving really that hard?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember those. And, I respect old cars, but, probably my dream truck would be an 86 Toyota 4x4. Just like, I think it was 86 what Michael J. Fox had in Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
I have one very similar. I have a 92. I have an 02. Excuse me. I have an 02. It's got 400,000 miles on it.
Wow.
But it's got a 6-inch leveling kit on it. It's got the snorkel push bar.
Oh, I think I've seen it. Right?
Yeah, Black Betty.
You've had it for a while.
So,
yeah. That's sweet.
Yeah, so it's, that would kind of be my dream truck, but my dream car, 67 Shelby.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I watched. I think it's a '67 Shelby. I think it's a '67. I watched Gone in 60 Seconds.
Right, that's that car, right?
Yeah, and Eleanor, dude.
Yeah.
I just
Beautiful
the color on that car, just everything. But those things are going. I watched one go in auction last year for like $1.4 million.
Oh man!
And I'm just like, yep.
Imagine if you bought one right before the movie came out.
Dude, or buy 5 of them. Some guy had 5 of them. Yeah, I'll take 50,000 a piece for them, But I'm waiting for the Whistling Diesel episode where he destroys a 67 Shelby.
Oh, yeah.
And then me and Cody will no longer be friends. That's taking it. He's destroyed Model Ts and everything else on his channel, but 67 Shelby, just don't do it.
It's a line you can't cross.
Yes, there's that one line you can't cross.
I'll tell you a random old car that I've always had an affinity for. My dad used to have one. I think everyone used to have one if they're old enough. Is the 80s. There's the body style, I think, went from 79 to like 90 Chevy Caprice.
Yeah.
Just that standard 4-door. Like
everybody had one of those.
Watch any movie from the 80s or 90s, and it's just like nothing but those.
Yes.
And you can spot them by the taillights, the little square.
Yep.
I've always thought those were cool.
My buddy had one. In 1997. He had an older one.
Okay.
And man, he drove that thing around everywhere. So yeah, I know exactly.
They're big. It's just like to me, if car like that, a picture of one of those should be next to car in the dictionary.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, if you're homeless and you have to live out of a vehicle, that would be the vehicle. Dude, you could put a microwave, you could put a refrigerator, you have a king size bed in the back seat of that thing.
Yeah.
The trunk, it's like a 60 body trunk. You can put at least 60 bodies back there.
For sure. You should see the trunk of my Wildcat. It's nuts.
Is it?
You could live in there. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it's like I've never been a big car guy. And believe it or not, I'm not really a big knife guy. Like a lot of people associate guns and knives because they're both weapons for some strange reason. But they don't. But I am not. I've got knives. I've got a bunch of knives. It's funny. Like I did a video on a ammunition test about a month ago, and I just picked up a random knife that my buddy made for me in Texas, and I cut into the gel block. And I got more comments on the blooming knife than I did the ammo. Everybody went, "What kind of knife is that? It's a sweet knife." And I'm like, "Some custom knife my buddy makes in Texas. You know, I can't tell you anything." So more people were freaking out about the knife.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a knife guy, and I just. That's why I carry a gun on me. If I need a box open, I'll just shoot it open. Why cut it open? It's much better to shoot. You got to angle it just right to get the tape with one shot, but it can be done.
It can. You got to set up a bullet trap and everything, but it's worth it. Those are. I've always wanted to get one of those. Those are pretty cool bullet traps.
I've got one.
You got one?
So I have a buddy of mine. He's an engineer and he's also a fabricator.
Okay.
And so I went to him with a design. I showed him a small bullet trap. I said, pretend this is 25% to scale. Mm-hmm. And so he made it out of AR-500, and I have a indoor range in my barn.
That's
so
awesome.
And it's probably 2.5 foot wide by 2.5 foot tall.
Okay.
And it's rated all the way up. He says it's rated a 44 Magnum. The only thing I've ever shot at it is 22 and 9mm 38 special.
And he made this custom?
Yes, custom.
I just got flooded with an idea.
Oh, no.
I wonder if he could make a custom bullet trap that looks like a Marshall stack.
Dude.
Because this is how it would work, right? So, like, if it's just a stack with this one's got 3.
Yeah.
But if there's a stack, they can't see this on camera, but I call it my doom stack, and there's 3 orange full 4x12 cabs with a Koch head on top of it. But your traditional Marshall stack with just 2 2 cabs and then the amp on top. So like the top cab could be the actual bullet trap, and then the other part could be just like where it catches everything, and you maybe have like a tray in the back.
Yeah.
To pull it out, and then you like either put a real like dummy amp on top of it, or if one was like fabricated where it was like kind of metal.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, mine weighs a lot. Mine probably weighs about 125 pounds.
Okay.
So it's a beast.
It's like moving a safe around.
Yeah, it is. It's a beast, and I have it up on 4x4s. I have it elevated where I'm shooting straight instead of down to keep the angle correct. But it's I had it built because. What a lot of people don't understand is that I work with a lot of companies, firearm companies, and I sign a lot of NDAs. Okay. And if people don't know what an NDA is, it's a non-disclosure agreement that you have between, yourself and other companies, and you can't talk about a product that they're coming out with. Okay. Right. So you're meeting with engineers, and I am constantly testing, firearms, for companies and stuff like that. So when it's rainy outside or cold, I just go to the indoor range and, shoot it up, and awesome. And so that's why I got that is that way it's kind of like climate control, temperature control, and I don't have to worry about the rain or the sun or anything like that and go through the gun. So that's why I had that bullet trap, initially created, because I got tired of deadlines of, hey, can you put 2,000 rounds through this gun this week? Right. And I'm like, it's going to be rain every day this week, So, but I kind of worked around that.
I've always thought I've always thought about doing this, but I was like renting, so I'm never in a place where I could actually do this. But I've always thought like a way to make like a poor man's indoor shooting range, and I bet a lot of people have done this, is if you just like buried a giant culvert, like metal, like pipe or whatever, in the ground next to like a garage, and then knock the wall out. So you're just shooting into the ground, under the ground. If you had an underground basement,
you could probably use a big, humongous sewer line, because they don't have the ripples in the pipe, so they're smooth.
Right. Yeah,
you could do something like Barrett rifle. They have that in their shooting. It's 100 yards, and you're shooting through pipes all the way down. So and you have
like a little pulley system or something for the target.
Well, they don't. They have an electronic system that it's got targets down there that has microphones, hundreds of microphones around the target, and then it has a computer screen right beside where you're sitting, and the bullet judges the sound of that, where that bullet hits, and it shows your grouping on the computer screen. Wow. So you're not even really shooting real paper or anything. There's a place to aim, and it tells you your group, your velocity, everything on a computer screen, all through technology.
That's cool. See, I would just hire people with those little like headlamps to crawl down there.
That'd be way more efficient.
It would,
way cheaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, my goal is, if I ever build a house, get some more land somewhere and build a house, I want to build a big barn dominium. That's what I want. And
I love that term.
Yeah, it's a fun word to say.
Yeah, I never heard it, but I immediately knew what it was.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those words when you say it, it just flows off the tip of your tongue, and you sound way more educated than you really are.
Right.
And but yeah, I spent a lot of time in South Texas, and a lot of things down there are barndominiums.
Yeah.
And I want to build a barndominium, probably with about not too big of a house, probably about 2,000 to 2,500 square foot house, because I don't need a lot of room. What I need is a lot of storage.
Oh, right.
So, with firearms, ammos, and ATVs and trucks and stuff like that. And, but yeah, I would like to build probably about 1,000 square foot vault inside of the barndominium, and then have an indoor shooting range. And the thing is, with indoor shooting ranges, the biggest cost is ventilation.
Right.
So, that's where, I may just go to Walmart, buy a couple ceiling fans and point them against each other out the door. Yeah, we're good to go. So that's probably the redneck way. I'm like, I'm not shooting a ton, so that's probably what I'll end up doing. So
Totally. I've always thought, what if you had it'd be cool if you had one of those big, you got a big metal building, and then you built a cabin inside of it. And how in Vegas and the Venetian, they've got So what if you had a cabin inside of a big metal building and you had fake turf in there? So it was just always a nice day inside there. You're sitting on your front porch another nice day.
John, that was deep. That's very deep. I've never heard of anyone take it to extreme, build a house inside of a house where you can have a nice day. But yeah, be all climate control. Be sort of like the Opryland Conservatory. You just go out there and everything under glass. It's beautiful outside, even though it's 18 degrees,
right. And you got to have your own custom weather app. Well, let's see what the weather is today. Oh man, 70 degrees and sunny.
Oh, and it'd be perfect. You could have strobe lights to simulate lightning in there if you want a storm to come in. The sprinkler systems go off. You can do anything, pretty much just have a good drainage system and you're good to go.
That's right. They have that in one of the hotels in Vegas.
Dude.
Which one is it where it rains into that thing?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
So we just...
Is it where the mall is?
Yeah. We pretty much just explained the movie with
the
Jim Carrey movie. We pretty much so if somebody's already done, never mind.
Damn,
we can't do that.
But you put yourself in it though, it's different.
Yeah, that's true. You know what reality is and what's not reality.
Exactly. That is a great movie.
That is a good movie.
Especially now.
Oh yeah. Because honestly, wasn't that his first serious role that he ever did? Because
it was one of them.
Yeah, because that movie is now, good grief, 15 years old, 20 years old. What was he called? Truman Show.
Yep,
Truman Show. And I remember watching it, and I'm just waiting for him to go, all righty then. But it never happens, Yeah. And he played this serious part, and I'm like, he is really a good actor.
He really is. I saw that really interesting interview with him where he talked about how, at least with his first string of movies, it was every movie he got somehow fit him perfectly in where he was in his life. I don't know if it was because of the movies he was choosing to do or whatever it came. And I always think about that with the Truman Show, where at that time when he was really starting to get famous, he probably felt like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was kind of what his real life was.
Favorite actor?
Oh, favorite actor. Jesus, that's a tough. That would be tough. Maybe we could go Jim Carrey. I mean, to me, he's the funniest comedy actor. I mean, no one makes me laugh more than Jim
But he's
Carrey.
Canadian.
He is, but Canadians are funny.
They are pretty funny.
There's a lot of funny Canadians.
Justin Bieber, he's pretty funny. So, but my favorite actor would have to be Denzel.
Okay, I can see that.
I like Denzel. And not only that I like him as an actor, I always like every role that he has ever played in every movie besides Training Day.
Oh, really? Okay.
Have you ever seen Training Day?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, dude, I hated him. I didn't hate him. I was mad at him for taking that role.
Really?
Because he always plays the good guy or some military guy. He never played the bad guy or the victim. And I'm just like...
He nailed it, though.
Oh, my goodness, he nailed it. But I was mad at him for taking the role. I'm like, why did... I want to be mad at him, but he did a good job.
Yeah.
But, Denzel would have to by far, because not only is he an awesome actor, he's a good human being.
Yeah, I've heard
He's level-headed. He's not... He doesn't let the media set the narrative for everything. He's like, I've got a brain, I can think. You don't have to tell me how to think. And last I checked, he was pro Second Amendment. He was pro
awesome.
gun.
I didn't know that.
Awesome. He spoke up against it. It's the video's out there probably 10 years ago, but it was basically promoting safe shooting and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Unlike the actor who has made like Jason Bourne, who's made millions and millions and millions on firearms, and Mark Wahlberg's the same way.
Yeah.
Made millions on firearms, shooting people, and then turn around as the real life person saying, "Don't shoot guns." I'm like, don't do that.
I'll tell you the like I can see the side of kind of with the Baldwin thing where it's like I could see how an actor could be anti-gun and using guns in a movie, and he's being like, I'm showing the negative side of guns. I could see that, but the thing that really, to me, is the biggest hypocrisy of that is like someone like Snoop Dogg, right? Because he's super anti-gun. At least he was. He was part of some big campaign, So like anyone who's like a gangster rapper, I'm not someone who's like a hater of that type of shit. Like I get, it's cool, it's interesting, but to like glorify a life like that, and then to be like, you shouldn't have guns.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, gun is not in a good context with him. The context that he's putting guns in is not the same context that you and I were brought up. But
he's still
doing it,
glorifying it. It's still like
it's almost like don't do what I do, do what I say do, kind of a thing. And like I never really. I hated that statement. Growing up, I'd hear people say it. Because it's such hypocrisy.
Right.
But at the same time, every time that he saw a gun, it was either watching somebody get shot or like I've never seen anybody get shot. I don't want to see anybody. I've never shot any. It's so we're so far from night and day. Is his experience with firearms? So I can kind of see him saying that and doing that. But I guarantee he owns a firearm.
He would have,
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
So, there's no way that he's not strapped. So there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably a high point.
Yeah, probably.
So what kind of, all right, if you're watching this, put in the comments below, what kind of gun do you think Snoop Dogg would carry?
Probably, let me think. Snoop Dogg. For some reason, I picture him as like a Beretta guy.
Ooh, that classy?
Yeah. I feel like he would like Berettas. I don't know why. I can just picture him carrying a Beretta. I don't know why.
I honestly wouldn't even begin to think. I would probably see him a Glock guy.
Okay.
I would, because it's.
But see, he's a big weed smoker. So I'm thinking he may appreciate elegance and like, I don't know why. For some reason, like, a guy who smokes a lot of weed.
He's got expensive taste.
Yeah, a guy who smokes a lot of weed, it seems like they would be more attracted to the look of a Beretta than they would a Glock for some reason.
H&K P30.
That maybe, yeah.
H&K P30. Okay. So, because it's got the lines, it's German engineering.
Yeah, okay.
And I would think that. H&K P30. That's what I'm going to go with.
All right.
So if anybody knows Snoop Dogg and knows this for a fact, I get 100 points for that.
Okay. All right. You're talking about actors earlier. It reminded me of this thing that I saw that has been just stuck in my head because it was so funny to me. It was a story that Norm Macdonald was telling on Howard Stern. And if somehow I'd never seen it before, I thought I'd seen every Norm thing. And he was telling the story about he's admittedly he's a terrible actor, and he'll tell you himself. Well, he can't now; he's gone. But he was very open about himself being a bad actor. But he got this role with Woody Harrelson in this movie, right? And they were shooting some scene, and they were just like sitting in the set. Like I forgot what he said it was. It was like they were in some living room or something like that. And Woody Harrelson was like, or Norm was like, Woody Harrelson goes. It's like, hey, Norm, do you want a beer? And he was like, no, I don't drink. He's like, you sure you don't want a beer? He's like, nah, I don't drink. He's like, you drink? I thought you were just like a weed guy. You drink?
Yeah.
And the director goes, cut. Norm, what are you doing? And he's like, what? Like he didn't even know it was a scene. He was like, the guy was so natural. He's like, I thought he was just talking to me. I didn't even know that we were shooting. Like he was just so like blown away by how good of an actor he was. He thought like, he's just talking to me before we start.
Yeah, it's so like funny. Norm, I loved watching Norm. I'm from the '90s, late '80s, early '90s SNL. I watched it live. I had to sneak in the other room and watch it because my mom and dad really didn't want me to watch that kind of stuff at a young age. But you had the Chris Farleys and the Adam Sandlers, Norm, and David Spade, and all those guys. Man, that was that was so much talent on that show at that time.
Incredible. And you know what's crazy about that? Have you heard that was when they had some of the lowest ratings? And that to me is like
No
the best
way.
time. Yeah, like the Sandler era, like that whole time period they were like struggling.
Blame it on the writers.
Yeah, because I mean, God, yeah, the cast. I mean, Chris Farley. Everyone says about Chris Farley that he's the funniest person they've ever known. You know, Norm Macdonald to me is like one of the funniest people that ever lived.
Yeah,
probably maybe one of the greatest stand-ups that ever lived. And he will say Chris Farley is the funniest person he ever met. You know the story about when he first met Chris Farley, right?
No, I don't.
You don't know this story?
No, I don't.
I love this story. So so Chris Farley was already a cast member when Norm got on, and for the new cast members, they have this like retreat. They go out some big cabin somewhere, you know, and they have all the current and new cast members, right? They all live in this like big house or whatever, for a weekend. And he said that he didn't even know Chris yet, and Chris Farley like came up to him and he was like, Norm. And they went back into this like to get away from everyone. He's like closing all these doors, like getting away from everyone to make sure like no one could hear him. And he like looks around and he goes, Pat is a woman.
That's so Chris Farley.
Yeah.
That is so Chris Farley.
Just the commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
You know?
He set it up. I've never heard that. So
another great one is, and what I love about this story is not just the story is the interaction. So he's telling this story on Howard Stern and the interaction they have. So he's telling Howard Stern about this time that Chris Farley busted into like his dressing room or something and was like, "Hey Norm, you want to see an impression of a salad?"
What?
And he's like, "Okay." And then Chris Farley took 2 cherry tomatoes and stuck them up his ass, and then poured salad dressing on his head.
What?
Right? And then Howard Stern goes, "Were you like, is this guy crazy or something?" And Norm was like, "No, I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever seen."
It's like he was so ahead of his time. You know,
Yeah.
I remember going to the movie theater and watching Tommy Boy when it came out.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and Black Sheep was okay.
Right, but Tommy Boy is one of the best comedies
it was him.
Yeah.
That was Chris Farley. And you know, I remember the day that he passed away. You know, it was on the news and everything, and I was like, man, too young.
I know, it's
way too young.
Man, it's a sad one. You know, he had a lot of problems. A lot of times, like, you know, for me being involved in comedy, like, you know, most comedians are just funny people who work really hard and figure out how to be good at stand-up, right? But there are a few floating around that are just like this. They just have this talent that's like hard to even fathom.
Yeah.
And most of them never make it because whatever it is that allows them to be that funny, like makes them have like a brain that can't really sustain like a normal life.
Yeah,
They're
I see that.
Really bad with drug addiction or they just, I mean, man, I could write a whole list of people that are like, to me, the funniest comedians I've ever known, but no one will ever know them because they just can't be enough of a business to have a career.
And not only that,
and he was one of those.
It is exhausting keeping that character going.
But yeah,
you know,
that too.
It's just because when you're seen in that light, because every time you saw Chris Farley, you know, and even Adam Sandler, the younger, they're always funny. You see them on the red carpet, you know, Emmys, Grammys, whatever have you.
Right.
I don't even know if I'm using the right terminology there, but you would see their character.
Right.
And, you know, it's just like, you know, when you and your dad go do a show and, you know, you've got to keep up the energy for hours and meet with people and talk with people. And you love doing it. I love doing it. But at the end, it's just like after I get through with about 4 to 6 hours at NRA and I've talked to a couple of hundred people and dealt with them,
drains you, yeah.
I just want to go and lay down in peace, quiet, like, and to keep up with that energy. I would almost compare it to like a school teacher.
Yeah.
You know, school teacher has to keep it up like for 8 hours, their energy and stuff to involve the kids. And then when they get home, they just collapse.
I will say though, I don't necessarily think it's that with like a guy like Chris Farley. Cause I've not been around a Chris Farley guy. I mean, Chris Farley is, you know, what? 30%. Oh, 30%. All right. We got 30% left on the camera.
Wow.
I got to pee really bad anyway. So
I've never drained a whole battery of a camera before.
But I've been around people who have these like, you know, like a comedy, you call it like comedy brain. And it's like a thing you kind of develop. And there's certain people who just, I don't know how to explain it, man, but it's just like, how are you this funny? Like, just you talk to them and you feel stupid just because of how just impossibly like creative and funny they are. And they're rare. I mean, they're really rare, but I've met a few of them. And the problem is, like, and I know Chris Farley was that person to an extreme, maybe the most extreme. And it's like, it comes from this, like, it's almost like a mental illness level, like, need to like constantly get approval from others. Like to the point where it's like a sickness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get that.
And so that's why when they're around people, they're just like the funniest guy you've ever seen. But it's not like they're not even riding the high that you would think. It's like they have to have that, and then when they're not around that, they're like dying inside.
Can you imagine the stress that are on quote unquote influencers now in today's world? That has to have that like, that has to have that comment, that has to put out.
Yeah.
And then when they're 40 years old and gray-headed and old and don't look the same and they don't have the same following and they can't get that buzz or that high of people like commenting, saying, oh, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, I can see this in 15 years. You're going to see a lot of problems. Like there's
especially
a lot of
really, really beautiful women.
Yes.
Especially as they start to get older and start to lose the momentum that they had based on that.
And that's why it's so, like, one thing that I cannot stand, and I guarantee you there's going to be somebody that's watching this or listening to this that will come up to me at NRA or in public and say, hey, you're my favorite influencer. Like, do not call me an influencer.
I hate that term.
I hate it. Like,
sounds like a Batman villain.
Yeah, like, my title is, I'm a professional shooter. I shoot guns for a living. I get paid to shoot. I do trick shooting, exhibition shooting. Like, that is, I just happen to record what I'm doing. That does not make me an influencer.
You definitely are a professional shooter because you do like different things. I've always felt I could just consider myself a professional YouTuber, but you for sure, I would never consider myself. I don't even know if Dad would consider himself a professional shooter, but
your dad's good.
He is. He is. But you for sure, because I mean, your stuff is more based on your shooting ability, and you do other things.
Yeah, like talking is the hardest thing for me.
Yeah,
like after like people are like, you've been talking for an hour and a half on the spot. Talking on camera by myself and keeping the energy going and keeping the narrative going and everything constantly in a 10, 15, 20-minute video. It's hard for me. I don't have the gift that your dad has. That can
I struggle with it too. He's unique in that. He's very good at
I guess a lot of that, we're not talking about anything we don't know or probably haven't talked about in the years. Like him being a school teacher and talking for 8 hours every day has built him and prepared him to do this, like nobody else can do it. Right. I can't talk for 15, 20 minutes without messing up. I just can't do it. Yeah. So if you ever watch any of my videos and you see B-roll, I messed up there. That's where I messed up and I put in B-roll, but I just can't do it. And a lot of time, now having, the past, 3 years, I got a really good cameraman. He corrects me. At first he didn't know what to expect. He didn't know how to know the angles I wanted and everything to shoot at. Now he knows everything. And, just did a video last week and I'm right in the middle talking. I'm thinking I'm killing it. Yeah. Then he's like, stop. You said this. I'm like, did I really? He said, yep, you said it. I'm like, crap, let's do it all over again.
You need a cameraman that's not afraid to be rude.
Exactly. And, he corrects me and that helps me because a lot of time, I've tried to film stuff on my own and then I think I nailed it. And then I go on the editing board and I'm like, I said like 8 wrong things. I'm like, I can't even use this. There's no way I can use this. Yeah. But
I know what you mean. I struggle with that. It's what's funny is like I've been doing stand up for 8 years now, and one of the things I always loved stand up, and this isn't the only reason I got into it, but one of the things I thought about was, because Dad's a teacher, he carried that experience over into the videos. Like maybe if I do stand up, that'll like help me with the videos. The opposite, if anything, because now when I do the videos, I'm like, am I bombing? Because I'm like used to stand up is such a different thing, but I love it so much where it's like, I don't care if it helps me with the videos. That's something I want to be.
But you can at least take the temperature of the audience. So if you're getting feedback, what you can say, the delivery and stuff like that.
The camera doesn't give you any of that.
Nothing. And especially when you're by yourself, that's why I love having people on my channel so we can have a dialogue, we can have a conversation, and it makes the video look so much better. It flows so much better. But, unfortunately, I don't do a lot of collaborations with other YouTubers. It's not that I'm mad at them. It's not that I
Right.
don't like them. I'm friends with most all of them, and we talk all the time. It's just timing.
Yeah.
You know, because I have sponsors.
Everyone's so busy.
I
and it's tough.
travel. I travel. From December the 1st till January the 1st, I was in 6 different states working.
Wow.
So, I was hunting,
Right.
you know, but it's but it's my part of my
is.
job.
Yeah.
You know, that's what one of my sponsors do. You know, they make really good hunting ammunition, and I try it out on animals. So, but yeah, it's a fun job. It's a rewarding job.
But it's a busy life.
It is very busy. You know, when I did security, you know, I was working 40, 50 hours a week. I put in, when it's busy, usually after SHOT Show from about January to April, it's not uncommon for me to put in 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And honestly, 5% of that is shooting guns and videoing.
Right.
The rest of it's testing and preparing, and, you know, because usually I don't turn on the camera unless I fire 1,000 rounds through the gun first. I just don't do it because, one, I want to be able to know what I'm talking about. I'm not this kind of guy that's like, you know, does a tabletop review and opens up a gun. Not that there's anything wrong with this. Each is their own. Some people don't. A lot of people don't have the access to a range in their backyard like we do.
I mean, I think the best way to review a gun is to do it on your bed. That's what I've always thought. With no light.
With no light.
Yeah, this is a couple of old school YouTubers making jokes about early YouTube. But remember that, right? That was like a genre.
Yep.
It was like no light, just the light in your room and on the bed.
On the bed, has the quilt that your grandma knit and like quilted you from like 1954. Totally. And not that anything's wrong with that. And you know, you've got the 2 different classes. You got some people that love unboxing videos, and then you've got some of the other classes that hates watching people shoot on camera. They say shooting is boring.
Yep.
Like, all right, you can shoot the gun, it goes pew, it goes bang, that's boring to me. I'm like, all right, let's mix it up. Let's do a lot of talking, let's do a lot of shooting, and you can fast forward this section or whatever have you, whatever you want to do. You know, it's up to you. Or just don't watch it.
Right.
You know, that's, you know, but that's all the advice I can give you, you know, but you know, it's hard to please everybody. You're never going to please everybody.
No.
And, you know,
You just got to do what you enjoy.
yeah. And I just do what I enjoy. You know, I just shoot a gun and smile and talk about it a little bit and pretend like you're on the range with me. You're my best friend and we're just hanging out shooting. You know, that's how I kind of do things. But so to get back to kind of the comedy thing a little bit, you and I have had this conversation about, good grief, about maybe 2 years ago, you're out at my place and you brought, you know, some of your guns. I guess it's been about 2 years. Asked you who your favorite comedian was.
Yeah.
Is it that same person still, or
who did I say it was?
I don't remember. That's what I'm asking.
I mean, yeah.
Like someone.
I'll tell you this.
Wait. Let me rephrase
I'll tell you
that.
who my favorite is.
Someone that you could listen to for an hour a day and not get tired of. Maybe I should word it like that.
All right. So, well, I'll tell you who my favorite is and who I think the best is. My favorite is a comedian that he's one of those guys I was talking about earlier that unfortunately he should be someone that everyone knows, but it probably will never happen. But his name is Junior Stopka.
Okay.
He has some stuff you can find online. He did a David Tell, you know David Tell. Right? He had this like showcase he was doing, and Junior's on it. You can find it. He has a 5-minute Comedy Central clip. And it's hilarious, but I've seen him do like a ton of material. To me, he's like one of the funniest comics in the world, but he's so brilliant. He's like one of those guys. He's just like so brilliant. He almost doesn't respect it enough to like pursue it as a career. Like he used to open for Doug Stanhope for a lot of years, and it seems like it takes something like that for him to actually like do it continuously.
Yeah,
it's so frustrating. I mean, he delivered me Uber Eats once in Chicago. I was like, the funniest stand up in the world is bringing me goddamn chicken tenders. What the fuck? But man, he's so damn good. He's so good. And I'm lucky enough. I live in Chicago now, and he's a Chicago comic, and he's like Bigfoot in Chicago. Like, he's this big, tall Polish guy. He's a Golden Glove boxer. I mean, everything about him is hilarious. He looks funny. He talks funny. He's a incredible Brit writer. But he. But every now and then he'll pop up and, you know, do a show. Someone will pay him enough and he'll do a show, you know, and I try to go when I can because it's just like,
oh, wow.
You know,
I'm going to have to look him up.
Yeah, he's really great. But as far as the best, I think it's probably Louis C.K., you know, but I'm a huge fan of like Norm Macdonald and Bill Burr, Shane Gillis. You got to check out Shane Gillis if you haven't yet. He's like the next like top tier guy that's coming up.
Okay, so these people that you've mentioned, all but probably one, being a comedian, like I know nothing about it. I love watching stand up. You know, some of it's good, some of it's horrible. You know, it all depends if you can relate to it in some way, shape, or form. Like if you make it to that level, how many people are writing with you? Are you still doing everything on your own, or do you have writers just like you would have like Saturday Night Live that would write the skit, stuff like that?
So it depends on the person, right? So like, and it's only going to be like the biggest comics that would even have writers, and typically it's going to be the guys who are doing a lot of other stuff.
Okay,
like Kevin Hart, you know, those type of guys.
Like Gabriel, what's his name?
Iglesias, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know for a fact, but maybe. I know Ron White has writers, like guys who are just doing a lot of stuff. That, or maybe they've been doing it forever. They got deals where they got to put out a new special every 2 years.
Okay, you
know, so like those kind of guys will do it. But there's also purists like, you know, I don't think necessarily Bill Burr has writers. I'm pretty sure Jerry Seinfeld doesn't. You know, like guys who are just true, like I'm a stand-up before everything else. They would never do that. You know.
Yeah, because Jerry, I look at Jerry as stand-up before I look at him as an actor.
Jerry would never trust someone to write for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like. I mean, it's easy to be surprised. I don't know, like, you know, you can get your heart broken all the time by being like, oh, that guy didn't even write that song or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff happens. So, I mean, I don't know for a fact which guys have writers and which ones don't. I just know about some of the ones that do. But I do know that there are a lot of those guys that are very famous who are just such purely stand-ups that they would never dare have someone write for them. Also, if like they're one of the best to do it, who's going to write for them?
Exactly.
Like, you know
I kind of see that.
You know, I mean, they might have some people like throw them some ideas or something, or like, you know, what I've heard about Ron White is that sometimes he'll see a comic do a joke, and he'll like it, and he'll think like, oh, I could make like 10 minutes out of this, and he'll buy it from him. I've heard of him doing that.
Oh wow.
You know,
so that's a thing. You can buy a joke.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
okay.
Totally. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
It doesn't happen at my level. I mean, but like for the real famous guys, where you know they've got such a name and there's so much money for them to be made by putting out more specials and stuff.
So if you say something on stage as a comic, does it immediately become copyrighted by you?
Unofficially, yes. Assuming it wasn't already someone else's and you didn't know, because that happens.
So sort of like YouTube, you know, you're creating content, and if someone takes your comment, it's automatically copyrighted.
It's your intellectual property. There's no like real legal recourse, except for comics are a very close-knit community.
Yes, I've heard that.
You know, just like the gun community or whatever. So I mean, your reputation will be
you steal somebody's joke
downhill real fast.
Okay.
Real fast.
That's how you get in deep water with it.
And also it's understood that it does happen by accident. It just happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody. But the proper way to deal with it is just when you find out, you stop doing it.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you can do.
Do you make a public announcement or you just
stop doing it?
You just stop doing it. No. Okay. So yeah, I guess my favorite stand-up guy is probably the same guy I told you 2 years ago. That'd be Josh Blue.
Oh, Josh Blue's great.
I love Josh Blue. The pigeon thing.
So good. Oh, so good. I like the one too that on his dry bar special about the
his dry bar is the best bit in my opinion.
It's so good. It's so good. There's a lot of really bad dry bar specials too.
Yep.
And his maybe is the number one.
Yep.
It might be the best one. It might be. But what was the bit? Now I forget what the joke was, but he did this act out where he's like walking up and down this ramp thing.
Yeah. He was like, I'm handicapped, so I might as well use it. You know,
that's what it is. Yeah. And it's just like he's just like walking.
He was like going on a date with his girlfriend for the first time, and he's like, comes to one of those doors, and it has a handicap accessible, and he's like, well, it's there. I got to use it. Let me get the door for you, honey. So
he's great.
When I was younger in elementary school, I was voted for the person to be a comedian.
Really? Okay.
That's who I was. But I found out really quick that you can't just tell other people's jokes. You have to come up with your own stuff.
There's a lot more to it too. Just being funny.
Yes.
It's such a grind. Like people just don't have a clue how much of a grind it is. I mean, I've been doing it. So at this point, I'm like a little over 8 years in. You know, and I'm not doing it for a living. I'm not a professional.
Yeah.
I know guys who are way funnier than me. They've been doing it for like 15 years and are still not professional.
Wow.
You know,
who's that one kid now? I didn't mean to interrupt, but who's that one kid now? He's young, and he's on every.
Matt Rife.
It could be. He's one that always has conversations with the audience, and
that's probably him.
Yeah, he's very good, but there's one thing about him that I think makes him so successful is how quick he is. I'm talking, I could have came up with that same joke 5 minutes later, kind of a thing. It's just spot on. And to be a comedian, you really can't give a flip who you offend in a certain way, and I could never do that because I would feel like, I'd say a joke. I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to, like it's not personal. It's just a joke,
Yeah.
So, but the only kind of like stand up that I don't like is just the super, super, super vulgar stand up.
Yeah.
I don't like, it just gets old. It's like, it's, to me, it's all right. Yeah, that was kind of funny, but then you just keep on. It's just like, I'm not talking about.
Especially if there's no nuance to it.
Yeah.
And it's not clever at all.
It's not clever. And I'm not talking about just so much about cursing or anything.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just so over the top
it's
vulgar.
Like shock
it's not
comedy,
even funny.
where it's like the part that's funny is just that they said that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the reaction is like, oh no, he didn't just say that. Like that type of shit,
and that's the only kind that I really don't like. And unfortunately, if you have like Sirius XM or stuff like that, and you go to the, they have like the kind of the clean comedy, then they have like, I don't know what it's called, like the R comedy or adult comedy. And you like, honestly, I can't listen to half of it because one, to me, it's not funny,
right?
And two, it's so vulgar. I just don't want to listen to it. But then I'll turn it over to the other stuff that people that actually have some kind of intelligence to them that can actually portray a joke without being vulgar about it.
Right.
That to me, that's just what maybe I'm old school, maybe like I'm so far off base there, but that's the stuff that I prefer.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I've always respected the craft of a joke where, the joke is maybe about something that's like maybe a little edgy or it's like very sexual, but you're letting the audience do it.
Yep.
In their head, kind of like you're not saying the gross thing, you're letting them picture the gross thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, we all know those people that can't form a complete sentence without throwing in 50 cuss words, and it's just like, you lose a lot of credit to me when you can't even form a complete sentence without just blah 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 blah.
So I agree.
That's just me.
It's also like a move that a lot of beginner comics, if they're like just constantly cussing, it's like, Oh, are we about to run out of time? All right, we're about to,
we successfully drained
we killed
an entire battery.
Yep. That was it.
Temp overheated.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Internal temp too high.
All right. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll give it a second. Oh, is it still on? It's still recording?
On. It shut down.
All right. We'll give it just a second. I'll put one of the other batteries in there, and we'll just like do a wrap up.
Okay.
Be like, hey, we burned up the camera. Okay, we're back. We overheated the battery. I'm using a different camera that I've been using in the past. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but apparently the batteries overheat before they are finished.
Yeah, we just learned that.
We did.
I have the exact same camera, so that's
okay.
That's a good learning tool for me also.
I guess maybe if I'm using it for the podcast, I need to just plug it in direct, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know.
Absolutely. That's what I would do. And how much we talked, at least 128 gig card.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So come back next time I'm invited, and I'll try to like write a couple of jokes and try them out on you.
All right.
And totally bomb and never do stand up.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I look for them every now and then. I wish I could find a that mini Uzi I've got. There's somewhere out there. There are like 22 long rifle kits for it. If you ever hear about one or whatever, let me know. I'd love.
When's your birthday?
Oh yeah.
No, I don't know when it is. But I know people that may know where they're at.
Oh yeah.
So.
I'd be game to buy one because I've always thought like you should do a video. I want one just to play with myself, but you'll definitely have to do a video.
I'll give you a box of Stangers to put in there. So
okay.
So do you have an original IWI, correct?
No, it's the Group Industries.
Group Industries. Okay.
But all of this stuff should be interchangeable.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So note to self: Uzi 22 long. I know who's got one.
Really?
Yes, Rachel B's dad.
Ah.
So I know, but he owns 7. He owns a lot. He owns lots of machine guns.
Okay.
So he was kind of the smart man back when he cashed in his. If I'm telling this story correctly, right when Reagan, passed the bill. Was that 1986?
86, May of 86 when it went into effect.
When it went to effect. Right before that, he knew it was coming to effect. He worked for Ma Bell. at the time, and he'd been there quietly. He was an engineer or something like that for a long time. He made pretty good money. He cashed out his whole retirement and bought machine guns.
Man.
And yeah.
Incredible.
I think that was a good investment.
Very good investment. But yeah. If I run across one, you run across one, let me know.
Oh, I will.
Love to see you make a video on it.
Dude.
I bet it's fun.
Full auto Uzi 22. I don't know if it'd be too much fun because of that recoil. The recoil would just tear me up.
Yeah.
As long as they're not 22 Magnum. I can handle 22 long rifle, but 22 Magnum's just too much.
And if I get a belt fed 22 kit for the M60 too.
I have shot those. Those are freaking awesome.
Wait, is that a real thing?
Yes, it is a real thing.
For an M60?
So yes. So
Damn, I
have shot that, and also
how would that even work?
so you know the Gatling gun that Tippmann came out with, the 22 Gatling?
Yeah, that's all you do.
So
that.
did you see Dustin Ellerman's video on it? Where a guy manufactured a minigun rear for that takes 20 volt big DeWalt batteries. You plug in and you push button that's doing 700 rounds a minute, and it's belt fed and like extend like as long as you want to make. And they're cutting trees down with it.
Wow.
Yeah, he wants to bring it to the house and do a video with.
Is it like it's a machine gun though, right?
Yes, it is a machine. It's a registered machine gun. But since he has his manufacturing license, SOTs and stuff, he can do that.
So cool.
But yeah, he made a video on, and it's just like a minigun, pressing the button. It's like with the 22s.
Wow,
so
that's very cool.
That's going to be my new squirrel gun.
Hell yeah.
So, but yeah, I'll look for one of those Uzi conversion kits. I think I know the person to call.
Okay.
And you need to come on my channel.
I'd love to, yeah.
You have never been on my channel.
If you want to do something too, I mean, with any of my shit too, let me know. If you want to do something with a 60 or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got it set up in the E1 right now, so it's like the Vietnam.
Oh, cool.
And it's got like a kind of a beat up parts kit on it, so it looks cool.
Sweet. Yeah, we definitely need to do something because
I'd love to.
I don't think your dad's ever even been on my channel. I've been on his several times, but I don't think he's ever been on mine.
Do that too.
But one thing that we need to do is I do want to make a video, and I know we got to kind of wrap this thing up, but it's like 16 hours long.
Yeah.
But so much to talk about. One thing I want to do is have a video of me shooting at your dad's range, then have a video of your dad shooting at my range, and then him shooting at mine, because at least, say for instance, I get 500 comments on a video, at least 15 of them is like, why are you shooting at Hickok's range? It's like every video, and I'm like, I'm shooting at my range. It looks similar, but it's not the same. So I want to do, this is Hickok at his range. This is me at my range. Like a 30-second, like short or something like that. But anyways, all right. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks again. We'll do it again for sure.
All right, absolutely.
All right.
Bye.
We'll see you guys.